Cami firing Tommy is one of the most consequential moves in Landman Season 2, not just because of what it means for their relationship, but because of what it exposes about M-Tex, leadership, and how fragile power really is inside the company. This isn't a dramatic impulse decision or a betrayal fueled by emotion alone. It's the culmination of tension that has been building since Cami stepped into a role she may not have been fully prepared to carry, and Tommy found himself trying to be two things at once: a landman in the field and a president in the boardroom. To understand why Cami fired Tommy, you have to understand what Tommy's role at M-Tex actually became in Season 2. On paper, Tommy is the president of the company. In reality, he never stopped being a landman. He's still operating with instincts shaped by years of making deals, smoothing conflicts, and solving problems on the ground. That skill set once made him invaluable. Under Cami's leadership, however, it became a liability. Cami inherited a company in crisis. M-Tex is bleeding money, facing legal exposure, dealing with offshore risk, and relying heavily on Galino's capital just to stay afloat. As president, she needs discipline, alignment, and a clear chain of command. What she gets instead is Tommy questioning decisions, bypassing authority, and operating independently because he believes he knows better. And the uncomfortable truth is that he often does, but knowing better doesn't matter if it undermines leadership. From Cami's perspective, Tommy isn't just challenging her decisions. He's challenging her legitimacy. Every time he pushes back on Galino, questions the offshore drilling plan, or makes unilateral moves to protect people like Cooper, he reinforces the idea that he doesn't trust her judgment. In a company already struggling for stability, that kind of internal dissent is dangerous. The firing itself isn't just about one disagreement. It's about control. Cami needs to prove to Galino, to the board, and to herself that she's capable of running M-Tex without leaning on Tommy's shadow. As long as Tommy remains president, half the company still sees him as the real authority. That dynamic makes it impossible for Cami to fully step into her role. Galino's influence cannot be ignored here. Whether Cami admits it or not, Galino benefits from Tommy being sidelined. Tommy doesn't trust Galino, doesn't play his games, and doesn't accept his money without suspicion. By firing Tommy, Cami removes the loudest internal obstacle to Galino's long-term strategy. Even if Galino didn't explicitly demand it, the pressure is unmistakable. This is where the decision becomes tragic rather than villainous. Cami doesn't fire Tommy because she hates him. She fires him because she feels cornered. She's trying to keep M-Tex alive, and in her mind, Tommy represents chaos, a reminder of the old way of doing things that no longer works in a company drowning in debt and risk. Tommy's mistake is believing that results matter more than structure. He thinks that as long as he's protecting the company, the people, and the land, his methods are justified. But leadership isn't just about outcomes, it's about alignment. By continuing to act independently, Tommy forces Cami into a position where she has to choose between authority and loyalty. She chooses authority. After being fired, Tommy's role at M-Tex doesn't simply vanish, it transforms. He becomes something far more dangerous, a man with insider knowledge, deep relationships, and no official leash. That's a terrifying prospect for Cami and Galino alike. Tommy knows where the bodies are buried, financially and ethically. He understands the land deals, the offshore risks, and the shortcuts that were taken. Firing him removes his title, but it doesn't erase his influence. For the company, this decision creates a vacuum. Tommy wasn't just president. He was the bridge between the field and the boardroom. Without him, M-Tex becomes more corporate, more insulated, and more detached from the consequences of its decisions. That might look cleaner on paper, but it's far riskier in practice. The firing also sends shockwaves through the workforce. Employees who trusted Tommy now question Cami. Others see the move as a warning. Dissent will not be tolerated. That kind of culture may create short-term order, but it breeds long-term resentment. In Landman, resentment always comes back around. On a personal level, this moment permanently alters Tommy and Cami's relationship. Whatever respect or affection existed between them is now buried under mistrust. Tommy feels discarded. Cami feels justified but uneasy. Neither fully wins. The company survives another day, but the cost is immense. What makes this storyline especially compelling is that neither character is entirely wrong. Tommy is right about the risks Galeno poses. He's right to worry about the offshore drilling and the human cost of bad decisions. Cami is right that a company cannot function with divided leadership. They are trapped on opposite sides of a problem that doesn't have a clean solution. Looking ahead, Tommy's firing may ultimately prove to be the biggest mistake Cami ever makes, not because Tommy is flawless, but because M-Tex needs someone willing to tell uncomfortable truths. Galeno's money may keep the company alive, but money always comes with strings. Without Tommy inside the system, there's no one left with both the courage and the credibility to pull on those strings before they tighten. In the end, Cami firing Tommy isn't just a plot twist. It's a statement about power, fear, and survival. It shows how quickly allies become liabilities when stakes rise, and how leadership decisions made under pressure often plant the seeds of future collapse. Tommy may no longer be president of M-Tex, but his role in Landman Season 2 is far from over. If anything, losing his title frees him to become something far more unpredictable and far more dangerous to the people who thought firing him solved their problems. Because in Landman, removing the conscience doesn't remove the consequences.